How's it going, my AP students? Hope everybody had a great week and is doing well. It's your boy with the fresh haircut. That hopes you have a really good weekend. But just wanted to take you through the week and what we did. We'll just get right to it. We had ended the previous week with looking at like the expansion of federal power with President Jefferson and expanding the United States not only power but land in the Louisiana Purchase. Again, showing that the federal government is going to start doing things that may or may not be constitutional or not, that like helps benefit the United States of America. And as we know, if it is unconstitutional or there's a discussion if something is unconstitutional, it gets sent to the Supreme Court. In our previous week's lessons, we learned about Marbury versus Madison. So that's who handles and settles these issues when they do come about. So the U.S. expanding power and the U.S. expanding land and influence in that, right? In our first class on Monday, we talked about the War of 1812, and we looked at the causes of those. Remember, majority, it's about America trying to get respect in the world. When other countries, are impressing your sailors and not letting you trade, and you're stuck in this weird war between France and England, it puts the United States in quite a precarious situation, especially as a really early country with like not a ton of power yet. Even before the War of 1812, our boy Thomas Jefferson passes the Embargo Act, which is then followed up by our next president, James Madison, who passes the Non-Intercourse Act. That all has to do with limiting United States trade. We do have to remember that Jefferson and his followers, the Democratic Republicans, really believed that America should be like an agrarian society that are of subsistence farmers. So you get to make food, and that's pretty much all you need. You can do anything you can do for survival in your private life there on the farm. We realize that that's not a realistic goal, simply just because our economy totally collapses after we pass the Embargo Act and the Non-Intercourse Act. We really struggle with that afterwards. So the impressment of the ships, the lack of trade, and America really looking for respect, leads us to the War of 1812. The other big cause of the War of 1812 is, of course, Native Americans. The British were giving guns and such to the Native Americans along the Ohio River and the Mississippi River as the U.S. citizens are moving west, past the Appalachian Mountains out into, again, like the Ohio River Valley. The Native Americans are not so happy that, again, white men are encroaching on their land. So the British provide them with guns and such to mess with the Americans moving out west to settle. And expansionism is really, I guess what you'd say is the last cause. We had just bought Louisiana, and America was really interested in Canada at the time, which is why we really tried to take it over a few times in the War of 1812. Results, stuff that happens during it really quickly. I mean, the White House gets burned down. America fails to take over Canada. The Battle of New Orleans, which makes Andrew Jackson famous. William Henry Harrison and the Battle of Tippecanoe, which makes him famous. Those two are both future presidents. So those are during the War of 1812. But what happens at the end? What's the important part? Why significant for U.S. history? It establishes the United States as a real power in the world. It helps us gain respect, even though the British sort of, do very well in this war against us once they, start ignoring Napoleon and focusing on us. They do quite well, but America is able to hold their own and eventually negotiate a peace at the Treaty of Ghent, which is going to recognize American borders and reestablish trade with England, which, good thing. The New England, the Northerners, and the Federalists really hate the War of 1812. This leads to their demise. They have the Hartford Convention, in which they are going to propose changes to the Constitution that would limit like sort of the things that the Democratic Republicans had been doing. They, of course, present this information to Congress in Washington, D.C. a few days after we had just ended the War of 1812 with the Treaty of Ghent, and the Battle of New Orleans had taken place like 2 weeks after we signed that treaty because, it takes a long time to pass information between people. People are like, dude, what are you talking about? We just did really well. This War of 1812 thing's over. America actually held their own. There's strong American national identity after the Battle of New Orleans and, holding our own against the British. So we're basically like, why do you want to make changes? That doesn't make sense. So this leads to the death of the Federalist Party and leads us into the era of good feelings where there's only one political party, the Democratic Republicans. Since there's only one political party, they're able to easily make changes. These changes are the market revolution, right? So War of 1812, shows us that we have to, rely on trade to be a stronger economy. It also shows us that the United States is heading in like the correct direction in terms of economics and politics and everything. Obviously not in terms of social treatment, but we are getting wealthier and we're expanding the country. So obviously all that's good. And we know that the big loser of the War of 1812 are the Native Americans, who are going to suffer incredibly harsh treatment after the War of 1812, not only for racial reasons, but simply that they were working together with the British. And they were fought against the next future presidents. The next generation of presidents are really really influenced by the War of 1812 and our interactions with Native Americans. So that's Andrew Jackson and Henry Harrison and such. So on to the market revolution, which again starts because we show that the Embargo Act just doesn't work. We have to trade. The United States starts becoming more of a capitalist country, along together with the federal government helping to do things in the America system with Henry Clay, like build roads and railroads and the Erie Canal and raise tariffs on outside goods. So we have to make American things, and creating a Bank of the United States that can give out loans to help establish businesses and trade. That's the federal government trying to influence the economy. The market revolution has a lot of innovations, like I just talked about, the railroads and stuff, things like the cotton gin, interchangeable parts and weapons, both invented by Eli Whitney, that really affect our economy. Specifically, the cotton gin makes the Southern economy completely dependent upon slavery and the production of cotton, which then ties it to the Northern industries that are going to make factories up north to process that cotton. So it ties together the Northern and Southern economies with also something like the Erie Canal and railroads and the telegraph connecting in the western part of the country too, which at this point is pretty much like up to St. Louis in Missouri. So not exactly what you think about as all the way out west, but still west. So there's a lot of ramifications to the market revolution. I drew all that stuff on the board for you that all connected. Things like gender roles and public life versus private life and labor unions, and all of this connects back to the market revolution, which is why we made these posters this week. So we'll do notes on that on not Tuesday because we have Tuesday off, Wednesday for class. So we'll do some market revolution notes, and then we really get into Andrew Jackson. So we'll make sure we go through those posters and such, because the market revolution really is pivotal in the sense that, again, you saw the chain reactions of things on the board that I could do. You can connect a lot of stuff together here, a lot. Even the example I put up today on Friday, that's essentially like the America system, right? Henry Clay investing in the United States shows that the federal government can influence the economy, right? Which gives them more power, right? When you control the money. And you're giving money to the states and people to do stuff, which then leads to today where we have almost a $5 trillion U.S. budget where the U.S. spends money on a ton of stuff. So this really sets the precedent for that. But that's pretty much it. Again, we're going to go through notes and stuff and Andrew Jackson next week. Remember, I'm out next Friday for a wedding, so I will probably post a video similar to this that, it's about 20 minutes long to take you through what our class was supposed to be, and then I'll give you time to finish up your posters after that on next Friday. So anyways, hope everybody has a great weekend. Hope you check this out and, you get a nice little recap. And, yeah, see you later. Orange and blue. DHS, baby.